Fantastic. Well, I won't keep you too long, but we'll get started with the first sort of question relating to how everything in the Hideous Divinity camp is.
Huh. Well, I'd say pretty okay. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting phase right now. We just came back from a festival in Belgium, Masters of Grind. Cattle Decapitations, our old pals from San Diego, were the headliners, and it was the first gig where we actually played two songs from the new album. So
Okay.
it was a bit of a test. And when you rehearse the songs, but you don't play them live, there is always a reasonable margin of error, and we were a bit tense. But everything was super good, and the crowd reaction was actually positive. It was
Yeah.
more like the name of the festival says. Perhaps they were a bit more into that sort of a grindcore. I mean, there were bands that played before us, like Agatha Oakley's, and General Surgery was going to play right after us. But I have to say that the general response was pretty positive. So it was a good test. Now we'll have another festival in 2 weeks. And then we have something cooking for beginning of next year. It's gonna be say big thing. So 2020 is gonna be the year where we're gonna hopefully, we're gonna bring Simulacrum a bit of everywhere, and we'll start in Q1 next year with
Yeah.
something that I'm not allowed to say anything
Of
because it's
course.
not official. Not to mention that I'm an Italian guy, which means superstitious, which means that I better keep my mouth shut. And let's wait a couple of more weeks, but it's more or less confirmed, so everything should go according to the plan, and can't wait. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, as you say, there's no reason to go more detail even if you could, because the natural expectation is it's November, you're about to release a new album. 2020 would always be the year where I guess you're going all out.
Yeah, and it's a bit strange if you think about it, because all this, internet promotion, the singles, YouTube interviews, and sometimes, I mean, what you just said, it made me think the album is officially not even out, and it looks to me like if it has been out for like forever. So this, I mean, tells you about how much things have changed in the musical promotion, and I'm not complaining. I'm just, sometimes I stand in some sort of because of how market, how promotion, how everything is changing to, well, even if it's a niche kind of market, I would still call that business. I mean, after all, we're actually working with Century Media. Century Media is something that I never thought it was possible. We're talking about a very passionate into death metal,
Yeah.
successful business companies. For me, there are a lot of contradictions in this sort of a definition, but they actually made it work. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing. That must be the big difference this time. It is that massive label behind you.
Well, yeah, I have to say, yeah. But what really surprised me the most, okay, if you look at the roster, it's like, my goodness, the bands that they have. I mean, we're talking about bands like Lacuna Coil or Arch Enemy. It's totally irrelevant, the fact that they're not my cup of tea. But what I'm saying is we're talking about big names.
Yeah.
We're talking about bands that are actually have the credit and the luxury to live out of the music, which is something, I mean, when it comes to extreme metal, not exactly easy to achieve. But what really impressed me about Century Media is, like I said, how passionate they are when it comes to our awful, noisy music.
Yeah.
And for example, when we got signed, just a few weeks before we announced we signed with Century Media put an American band called Vitriol under contract, and I felt so. I had very mixed feelings, because first of all, I was so jealous. I'm like, oh, what the hell? I mean, it was something that I wanted to keep for myself, to be fan of one of those bands that are really, say, passionate about death metal, but in a true way. I mean, they are so genuine musicians. And on the other hand, I was like, oh, well, this is a big message to us. If Century Media signs a band like Vitriol, which is nothing less than 110% pure death metal.
Yeah.
That's that's a big message to me, and I think it was great. I think it was like they really showed that. Not to mention, I mean, how happy were the big bosses when, of course, they signed Mayhem, which is another piece of history when it comes to certain extreme, not exactly mainstream commercial music. And well, I think they're so passionate, and the fact that they're working in such a professional way, it pushes you to work more and more professional. I mean, to be considered a professional, it doesn't mean that you are renowned as a musician and you get, red carpet everywhere. And to be a professional, it also means that people expect you to behave as a professional when it's about deadlines, when it's about the quality of material, when it's about communication, when it's about everything. And I believe that is something that we chased for a long time. Hopefully, it's going to work. Really.
It is already, because this build to launching the album, and as you said earlier, it feels like it's out already, particularly for yourself, based off how much time and effort you put in, and now you've dropped the third single as of last week. Is this something you enjoy, this build, or are you now just at that stage where get this thing out?
No, I have to say, I'm going to be honest, to see the reactions to every single song that came out as anticipation of the album, it's always cool, because first of all, you look at numbers that hopefully are going up, and whether I like it or not, whether I acknowledge that or not, I like the fact that those numbers are going up. I mean, Century Media gave us the possibility to interact with a much larger public, and that's a fact. I mean, you look at the numbers of, for example, Century Media's YouTube channel, which also means that you have comments like, they sound like Behemoth, does anybody know them? Which is a rather hilarious comment to me, but it only goes to show that they are achieving people that we could not achieve from our small proudly underground niche, because that's that's how things go. And I have to say, it has been cool. It has been very interesting to study the reactions of this new public, looking, for example, at the video clip of the first song against what was the more direct approach, say more traditional, super fast, technical, so to say, death metal of the second single. It's always so interesting to gather different reactions from different kinds of audience. I mean, of course, we're probably going to get to the point that, Century Media, I believe there is a small number of fans worldwide that thinks right now that we are selling out, which is so funny to me, because to think that there is someone out there thinking, Hideous Divinity sold out. It's okay if you like it. It's a way. It's your angle. It's a way of seeing things. But what we're basically trying to do is to reach a larger audience. I mean, I don't think there is anything bad with that. Then, of course, you may have the skills to do that, but keeping it truly, purely super dark, obscure underground, and doing absolutely nothing to change your strategy, not forcing yourself to become a bit of a, social media hooker, which I mean, there are bands that simply they don't do that, and still they're successful. Like one of my favorite bands, which is the Polish black metal band called Mgła. They've got their YouTube channel, their website. They just released the album, like, here you go, new album. Now shut up and listen. And oh boy, that is so cool. That gives me the idea of what power really is, if you know what I mean. But that's another topic. I'm sorry, I'm mixing things.
No, it's fine. It's fantastic to hear your opinions and thoughts on that, because you've not been handed success. You've earned this position that you kind of grow into. And in metal, we're our own worst enemies. We want you to be successful, but then they get annoyed when you do. It's puzzling.
It is. It is. It's always very interesting. I mean, we got that from the very beginning in what we could call the Italian death metal scene. This sort of to me, there is no such thing as the Italian death metal scene. There are a couple of very good bands, but when it comes to, I don't want to be nasty, but when it comes to what really the meaning of support is, I think by the fact that starting from day 2, we clearly wanted to show that we wanted to do things a bit different, showing, trying to stick our heads outside of the hole of the underground.
Yeah.
A lot of people took like, see these guys, they think they're better than us. And the point is not wanting to be better than someone else. The point is to evolve. I mean, let's just face it, I'm going to be 40 in December. Okay, I've been doing this music for most of my adult life. And this is the 4th album. I previously did 2 albums when I was into Penance, the band that I founded, but then again, it's another story. But the thing is, I would feel so bored, and I would feel that I'm doing something disappointing if I would do the same old songs, the same old music, album after album, copy and paste. It's still gonna be brutal. It's still gonna be fast. It's still gonna be super down tuned, but it will sound all the same. I mean, we're really struggling to do something different out of boredom. There's so many bands out there that do what we used to do so much better. That is the purpose, and keep on doing the same recipe. I guess it's about how you look at it. I look at something that should be changed.
No, that's fine. I agree with you. And you talk about localized scenes, but ultimately if you break out of that scene, you lift it with you. In theory, that should be the thought process of fans, I would think.
Yeah, I would. I guess everybody is doing their best to be honest with themselves. Yeah. But I've experienced bands as a fan, because after all, we're all fans. This music, the reason why all this is working, the reason why me and you right now we're having this conversation, which is not an interview, it's clearly a conversation between 2 passionate individuals about this music, is that I've seen a lot of bands and their changes in their career, in the music that they wanted to, what they wanted to do. But it tells me that some of those choices were sincere and they were actually musicians trying to do something. And in some of the cases, you have the feeling that band is going to release a new album just because they have to, just because it means another tour. It means basically the way they pay their bills, which is totally fine. I mean, everybody has the right to do whatever they are. If they're successful with a formula, and this formula gets is replicated until infinity, well, good for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing else to add, actually, to this.
So, I mean, at this stage, it's hard to really sort of predict what will come from the new album, but do you get this feeling that this is a turning point in the band's career, or are you kind of viewing it as a nice stepping stone to who knows what?
Well, it is a turning point. It is a turning point in the way of working.
Yeah.
I used to think that this album would create it would be like an Italian writer used to say something about when it was the first time that she read 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. She said to read it was like a trumpet sound that woke me from my sleep. And of course, I idealized my music, thinking that people will hear this trumpet sound and they will think, Hideous Divinity did something totally different. It's amazing. They just redid their own style. but sometimes you look at the reactions and I'm probably so much into my music that I'm not able to, I perhaps expect too much sometimes.
Okay.
So what I do when it's about writing music, it's always every album should be a turning point, because nowadays competition, it doesn't leave room for anything but that. We have to be, we're not even that say so cool characters on stage. We don't have long probably apparently all of us, we have like some kind of a hair problems, which means that we don't even look that evil, that metal. Like take a band like Amon Amarth. I mean, even if you give them ukuleles, their silhouettes are going to be like on stage, oh, but it's just so metal no matter what they do. When it comes to us, unfortunately we look more or less like, I don't know, like average people. So okay, we try to do our best on stage, but we always knew that we had to hit twice as hard to reach what other bands reached in the previous time. So of course every album should be a turning point, like I said, because there's so much competition now. Of course Century Media is giving us possibilities that we didn't have before. Now it's about us. I mean, they really love the music from day one, and they perceived our will. For me, it was very important. They will know where we were going, because of course it all started in the best possible way, with Century Media people, with the Century Media CEO approaching us saying, "I'm a big fan of yours." Okay, well, this is already a hot start. This is
It's a good
great.
start, yeah.
It is, but then of course, what is he expecting from you? I mean, Century Media is investing on us, okay? And nowadays, when it's about money and investments, no one wants to do that just because, like here's, I don't know, 20,000 euros or whatever, and just do whatever because I trust you. Of course, they want some sort of a guarantee. They want some sort of, one of the things that they told us, and I was not surprised to hear that I really appreciated the fact that they were so clear. They said, we expect you to help us help you and the record, meaning when this album is out, we expect you to run around, bust your ass, 2020, do as much as you can.
Yeah.
And I think it was also a good message that more or less when we signed, we just announced our first US tour with Aborted Encryptopsy, and we made very clear that we went for a working visa, which means at least 2 American tours before the visa expires, because it's a huge investment that the band is taking. So what you are communicating to an entity like a label is, I'm going to do this thing seriously. I'm not just going to take a vacation, play it in a festival, and then have my vacation in the US, watch the Grand Canyon, take a couple of selfies, and then come back. I mean, when you go to the US, and that's the thing that I remember the most, you're treated like a guy that is going there to work.
Yeah.
30 concerts in 31 days. We rented a caravan and we did something like, I don't know, I think it was 12,000 miles at the end. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was cool. And people always treated us. That doesn't happen very frequently in Europe. People were treating us, no matter the music, no matter, they knew that we were there working, and we got treated as people that will go to work. It's the best, of course, job ever, best situation ever, but still, it showed a certain kind of care, and that was perhaps the best thing about the US tour.
Well, absolutely. I mean, as you say, when you go over there, you're going to work, and you've got to put those miles on, and it paid off.
It did. I believe it really did. The response of the fans was great, and I mean, if you think about it, the band released the first album in early 2012. We only went to the US this year, so luckily we had some people that were waiting for us.
Yeah.
For quite some time. Of course, we had the bill that was like baboom, the best lineup ever. Aborted Cryptopsy for half of the tour, also Benighted and the Nas. I mean, the level was insane. So everything, when it comes to that, was easier. Of course, most of people came for the other bands, but I think, people were intrigued. Also, another good great thing actually about the US is that every band is treated like there are no like opening acts that you're gonna skip. So American fans are there from the first band. So and they try to get merch from all the bands, which is another fantastic way to show support.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked earlier on about paying attention to numbers and stuff. Do you read much in the way of comments, say on YouTube videos and stuff like that? Because the videos you've put out are very unique and quite different, and it's been getting some great reactions. Have you paid attention much to that?
Oh boy, you will never believe me if I will tell you. No, I don't pay attention. I read all comments. I read all reviews. I see every reaction because I cannot help it.
Yeah.
The So you have perhaps, like I said, the most important comments right now are, say, even mild comments by people that say, "I didn't know these guys before."
Yeah.
That is perhaps the best. When it comes to the video clip, reactions were great. I personally was a bit afraid because of some parts when there is, graphic violence. Especially nowadays when it's about even if it's say so theatrical, but when there is so much violence, including violence of on a female body, I thought, let's cross our fingers and hope no one exceeds in their criticism for art. But that's also the reason why before shooting the video we sent to Century Media. I mean, after all, it's their channel. Before getting into this huge investment of the video, we sent a screenshot of Olivier de Sagazan's performances, and we asked, okay, we just want to make sure you know what we are going to do, that this is not, first of all, that it doesn't disturb you as human beings. Second of all, as bosses, as the ones that will release the music, we just want to know if we're going to get into any kind of trouble, because otherwise we have to stop things first.
Yes.
And the reaction was great. They said, this is very explicit, but it's fantastic, much more meaningful than other, say, brutal videos with people getting splattered or entrails exposed and stupid things like that. So they said, go on, and we were like, oh, whoa, this is great. That's the real meaning of support.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me. We felt that. We thought, okay, let's go all the way. Let's go all the way with the madman Olivier de Sagazan and his. That was
works. Cool. It's fascinating you say that, because from my perspective, and I watch a lot of horror and I listen to a lot of death metal. It's part and parcel of our website. And I watched a video, and of course it's graphic violence and so on, but it didn't come across like as gratuitous, like it was, oh, we're just doing this to shock you. It was clearly it was a performance.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. And perhaps the best comments about about the video by viewers were the ones that said, "I've been knowing Olivier de Sagazan, his art and his performances for such a long time. Thank goodness, finally." Did something with him in extreme metal, and that was the cool thing. The fact that for once we anticipated other people. I remember Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation, the best singer, the best guy ever, and he's always very, very careful. He's always very updated when it comes to certain very explicit, very strong art. I think he was a bit jealous. He sent us a couple of messages. He did great advertising on the video. In one way, we thought that for once we stole the idea to a guy like Travis, just because, I mean, he's been, when it comes to Cattle Decapitation, I'm talking about it, their image and their messages, they're really fresh air when it comes to, if you look at the concepts and the visual presentations of other bands in death metal. So a comment from him, a compliment, even a bit of jealousy from a guy like him, it really shows that we did something meaningful.
Well, absolutely. Any comments positive from bands you work around or your peers and so on, it's always got to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's of course, it's up to you to know which ones are actually sincere and
Yeah.
which other ones are actually not. But hey, it's life. So
Yeah. So we got to talk about the bonus cover songs. You got one from Mayhem and another from Machine Head. Two very
yeah.
different bands. Why those two?
uh, I think when it comes to Machine Head, I just wanted to piss some people off, and no, but I think I think I mean, in general, I consider myself an okay person, but very arrogant when it comes to music. And there is a peak of arrogance, perhaps, when it's about time to choose the cover songs, because I always go for something that's meaningful for me.
Okay.
Bar My Eyes is one of those records in the '90s that really was a game changer in heavy music. Of course, I'm not going to say a word about the author, about the guy, about what he writes, what he posts. I don't want to get into that. I'm just talking about the music here.
No, that's fine.
And
Yeah.
the idea of Blood of the Zodiac, which actually belongs to the More Things Change, the second album, it just went round and around my brain. I was thinking, okay, let's do something. Let's choose something that allows us to make our own version. I mean, cover songs can be so complementary when you're really putting something of your sound into that, because otherwise, I mean, what would be the purpose to do something that's exactly like the original? People will lose the point.
Yep.
And I really don't want to play a cover song of Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Dayside. I mean, let's try at least to think outside of the box.
Yes.
Let's just try. And when it comes to Mayhem, well, Mayhem, it's another band that, to me, that really built a future. And during the US tour, I remember that I had the first night driving shift, which means from end of the concert to 6 in the morning, me driving to the next city. Oh boy, did I drive! And and I remember me listening every night before falling asleep to De Mysteris Dum Satanas.
Okay.
And I could only hold until the second song, which likely is Cursed in Eternity. So this song stuck into my head for a very long time. And if you listen to the guitar riffs, we're talking about something that really marked what would later become some sort of a black sheep in black metal. Then there was an album like Wolf Slayer Abyss. And I always, as a guitar player, I look at things first as a guitar player and then as a, if I'm allowed to qualify myself as a musician. And there was something, that song that will build the rest of the music. I remember in 1999 when the Grand Declaration of War came out, most of the people hated that.
Yeah.
We were not prepared in the late '90s for that. It's fun. It's all about contextualizing music and the time when it comes. I mean, back in '98, there were people even complaining about Formulas Fatal to the Flash by Morbid Angel. Now it's considered perhaps the masterstroke, or even Gateways to Annihilation. Nah, I remember people back in the day, 19 years ago, saying, nah, too boring.
Yep.
It's crazy. What did we want back then? I don't know. Never satisfied.
I swear a lot of these albums, they're just growers. Eventually they grow on people and they realise just criticism because they wanted to be part of a pack. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say it's exactly like that. Some things need time. Some things take time.
Absolutely. So, from yourself, from your perspective, we've had a pretty strong, good year in metal, all genres, particularly within death metal. Is there anything personally yourself that you've heard and thought, yeah, that's a real good album this year?
Oh, well, I have to say, when I usually write new music, I try to stick to what I'm trying to write. So I'm looking for inspiration, but I know not my cup of tea. But it's impossible not to see the mastery as musicians, as composers of bands like Borknagar or Leprous. I mean, these bands are now so successful, but I think they deserve it. I think they made a fantastic, say, itinerary music. And, like all Norwegian bands, there is also a lot of self-indulgence. We used to be the young black metal kids. Now we are respectable prog rock musicians. Hey, it's fine with me. I've seen these people in action. But if what they achieve is something good, is something meaningful, I mean, it's like I said, it may not be my cup of tea, but luckily there are some things that no matter if you like them or not, you can see the value.
Yeah.
You can see when a product is professionally made. And some of the things I believe I listen out of nostalgia, like soon there's going to be a new album by The Who. I mean, we're talking about The Who, a band that has been going on for the past 60 years.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 60 is a bit too much. But
Feels like
and they came out with the song. Of course, if you think about today's digital area, when it's about recording, playing, promoting, and I believe they still did something that's meaningful. They are people in their 80s, and they're still, I mean, Daltrey and Townsend, I mean, besides have written history, like literally, they made history.
Yeah.
We're talking about walking legends here. I mean,
absolutely.
And it's not because I'm talking with you and you're from UK, but I mean, I've been doing like researches. If you look at every musical revolution, for one reason or the other, especially when it comes to alternative music, UK has always been the center of the world. There is this book that was done by the editor of Decibel magazine, Albert Madrian, and I was the one. It's about the history of death metal. It's called Choosing Death. Well, 10 years ago, I was the one that made the Italian version, the one that translated that made an Italian version of the book, and I I found the publisher for that. I believe Albert was just wondering, what does this guy want? And I said, I just want to translate the book and to have it published in Italian.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most, say, romantic parts about this book are about the famous Mermaid Club in Birmingham, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. But that was the stinky pub where Heresy and Extreme Noise Terror and Napalm Death were actually physically inverted grindcore. One of those places where no one was allowed to play songs that were longer than 40 seconds. Otherwise, people would throw bottles at you. Are you fucking prog metal? I believe that's, in one way, music that is not directly related to death metal still gives me the chills. If you see a value into that, and there are still bands that are apparently they are ignoring that time is passing. Well, that's the true meaning of legend to me.
Yes, absolutely. So, last one for you then, and it's straightforward enough. Do you think Hideous Divinity now is at its strongest? That this is the most powerful version or stage you're at?
Yeah. I do believe so, because also that is shown by how the rate of fights inside the band is intensifying, because we all believe that we have our own musical personality. We are taking this more and more seriously with ourselves. We feel a lot of responsibility because we got a big chance.
Yeah.
And because it is like that, we got a big chance. We were also, I take my personal credit, the credit as a band, but we were also lucky because someone believed in us. And it's not the time to screw things up. That's why we're so much into it, and we still like each other as human beings. We're still so the band in the past. Unfortunately, some not very decent people were part of the lineup. Clearly, it was perhaps necessary. It's how things go. It's how you grow up. It's how you end up choosing musicians, not because you're forced to have a musician, even if you know he or she is an asshole, and otherwise the band would simply not exist. So now I think we grew up even when it was time to say no to something, like, no, I'm sorry, we really want to do this, but conditions are unbearable for us, it's a no.
Yeah.
That's also a message. That's also a message that you give to people when you're also able to give a message which is, look, I want to do this, but there is no rush, we can wait. That's another thing that is becoming, unfortunately, pretty uncommon. Because nowadays, most of the young, and I'm talking about young, super talented bands, but the the value of time, sometimes the importance of saying, this is not the right time. If we're going to do this, it's going to be like a big cathedral in the desert. And after all this, nothing's going to happen for some time. I don't know. It marks difference. I'm perhaps too much on the opposite side of it, because I'm still thinking about like an old school guy, which means a demo tape is something as important as an album. Nowadays, bands don't even do demo tapes anymore.
You're right.
Nowadays, they release a single, 2 songs, and they want to be on tour the next day. Yeah. My question is, are you going to play 10-minute sets, and that's the purpose of going on tour? Yeah, but we're going to add some color. We need to be at our peak right now, because now it's when the fight gets serious. Yeah. There's so much to do, and we also made mistakes in the past. We'll learn from those mistakes, but that's, like I said, one of the good things in working with a professional label. They force you to be professional. Yeah, they force you to, to behave like, to if you want to receive that kind of a treatment that you wanted all your life, because, you're a musician, you want to be this, you want to be that, well, then something is going to be required from you. Yeah. And we're exactly experiencing that, and so far so good. There's nothing as good as, wanting to be tested in something that you really love, that you really want to succeed in. So here we go. Let's just do it.
Yeah.